Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:49 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, September 10th. So let's look back at yesterday a little bit. As you can see that this is where value was, these blocks in the upper grid, right? We were a little bit above it. We ended a little bit below it for the three musketeers over here, which are the NASDAQ, ES, and Dow. The Russell held up a little bit better, right? Basically closing unchanged. And if we look at how they did to the overnight, right? We had that initial drive up in the morning on pretty much everything, and around 10:30, right? Lost a bid, come back into where that support was supposed to, if it was going to remain bullish, come in, and it was unable to. It just went down to the overnight value area lows and pretty much ended the day there. So there was no further demand once you got up to that resistance zone, and there was no real sellers at the bottom, right, that opened up the floodgates. Although if you were long, right, you were kept in keep away mode all day, right? If you didn't see what was going on and cover your contracts, that was pretty much it for you if you had to liquidate before the end of the day. So the title of my video is Welcome to December. So if you look at the top grid, right, I've got it set to the September contracts. The bottom grid, I have it set to December. So let's just go through and talk about some offsets for a minute. You got about 5 points. I'm just rounding these off close enough you can tune in and get the exact digits yourself. But you got 22, 60, 40, 22, 55, 30. It's about 5 points difference. You got 15,626, 15,617, right? That's only about 8 points different for the NASDAQ. Looking at the ES, right, you got about 10 points exactly, 9, 10 points, depending on the tick. It'll fluctuate a little bit. Don't get locked in that it's exactly 8, it's exactly 9, it's whatever. It fluctuates slightly, but that's in and around where it is, 9, 10 points. And then looking at the Dow, you get 115 points right now, basically between those. So as we look at it, if you're going to look back in time against yesterday, right, you should put the actual specific contract you're looking at, in my opinion, for today's session anyways. If you want to flip to the continuous, I think you can get away with doing that on Monday. So with that PSA out of the way, let's look and see what's going on. I will have to tell you, as we've come up here and made these highs, right? We made this high of 45.48 last Friday, and that was during the anyways, that's when we made that high, was last Friday. Since then, and going back into here, right, notice that we have no untested points of control above where we're at. We only have yesterday's, which is 44.98 quarter. I have not seen this as long as I can remember, that we've been taking out and methodically rolling down without leaving an untested point of control above. So this pullback is slightly different, although it's very minor at this point in time. I want to be aware that there's no reason, to be honest with you, that the market needs to go back up here again, right? It could not come up here for as long as it wants. So we'll see if we get an untested point of control above us and how that response is later in time. But tops are usually messy. They're usually complex. I'm not calling a top. I'm just saying this is action, to be honest with you, I've never seen. So as we look at it, I'm going to be a little bit more questioning, what's going on. I'll still do what I do until proven otherwise. We are in this very strong uptrend, don't get me wrong. Until we break some levels, we are in it. Just be cautious that don't be so cocky when you buy the next major pullback, whether that comes around, and I'm saying right around 43.50 would be an area to get cocky at, going and swinging long normally right now, right? So as we get down there in the near future, make sure you have your risk to reward. There's nothing saying that it's going to magically, melt up to another new all-time high after that on the next round. So I'm not going to really go through the midterm time frames, right? These are continuous contracts. It's a little bit sloppy today, so I'm going to leave that off. Looking at the overnight action, 25.25 points. And let's get into the value areas, right? I'm looking at the September contracts with these numbers that I'm giving out for you. Unless you have U21 after your contract, you are looking at December, and those offsets will be as noted earlier. So as we look at really what's going on, we have some single prints that are below, right, from yesterday that were left above yesterday. That can be a pretty good signal for the bulls. We also had some capitulation yesterday at the close for the NASDAQ and the ES, right, these blue shaded boxes, right? Trades went off after the bell closed before futures closed an hour later. So those traders are trapped down there. That's usually a sign of potential capitulation. And now that we've got back above the single prints, right, keep in mind that that is a potential possibility. So let's just look at the single prints to start with. For the NASDAQ, that's 15,607 quarter to 15,611. Holding above there for the rest of the day on the September contract would be extremely bullish for the session. Losing it, right, you should get a retest under yesterday's low. And if you look at where the settlements are, right, look at the purple dash lines here. They're all below value area low, which means we closed a little bit out of whack yesterday, right? So we are above there. So you can really watch these single prints and red to green on your screens, right? If we go from green to red, right, that's going to be bearish, and then taking out these underwater trades would be extremely bearish, right? We're going to get much lower. Without that said, right, that's the downside action. Let's look at the upside action. We'd want to hold above these single prints, to be honest with you. So for the ESD single prints on the September contract are 44.05 to 45.08. For the Dow, they're 34.957 to 34.966. So again, holding above there. Use this as a line in the sand. Don't get washed or whipped back and forth, right? Here's the scenarios for these single prints, right? They're either going to hold, if you look at it, and we'll do it this way real quick. When you look at single prints, when you look at these single prints, this is what yesterday's action were. You had a distribution above these single prints yesterday on each of these indexes, and you had a distribution below these, right? So there were traders that liked trading in here, right? And there were traders that liked trading in here. So when you look at these single prints, all you need to know is, do they want to merge those, right? Which means it's going to be choppy, shitty action, right? You go back and forth between these two areas, and you just keep going back and forth and film into one area, right? You merge them. That's the worst case scenario really for a trader, because chop is extremely hard for us to trade. But if they keep them split, which you should always assume on a first test, right, that you're either going to stay basically from the bottom of these single prints up, or from the top of the single prints down once you lose them, right? That is where they stay separated. That's the best scenario for us as traders. So assume, since we're above these single prints now on a first test, the bottom of these boxes is going to hold. And what you do is you do that with very narrow risk to reward, right? You don't need to, have a 10-point stop underneath this. You might need a 1.5 to 3-point or 4-point, whatever you use, but you don't need anything more than that. And as soon as it trades, and that would be on your bracket entry, as soon as it pops back above, you just trail that sucker up, right? Because if it's going to remain separated, it's not going to trade it down there again. So you keep your risk to reward in your favor, and don't give it up, right? You don't need to give up more than that. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I will be filling in for Jack on Monday and Tuesday, and I hope he has a great time off with what he's doing. And then we'll get into some more of this profile stuff then. You guys have a great weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday.